Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Hobart begins now.
Good evening. The saga surrounding the state government has taken a new turn, with former Attorney General Elise Archer now saying she may stay in Parliament as an independent. Today's development opens the government up to more potential trouble as it slips even further into minority. With no guarantee of supply or confidence, it could push the government closer to possible triggers for an election.
Another twist in the fallout over the resignation of Elise Archer. This afternoon, the former Attorney General told 7 Tasmania News she will reconsider a decision to resign from Parliament following an outpouring of community support. It comes as the Minister for Women, Jo Palmer, defends Premier Jeremy Rockliff in the wake of allegations made by Miss Archer.
I've always felt exceptionally supported, and the comments that Miss Archer make there for her, I have to say my experience has been the complete and utter opposite of that.
Forced to resign following leaked texts, Archer claimed the Tasmanian government doesn't support ambitious women, frustrated and furious at the government, which she says wanted her out. Texts about her being over victim survivors said to be the firing gun. That text, one now claimed to have been taken completely out of context, saying her communication was a quick message regarding social media, meaning she was sick of them attacking her, not how it's been portrayed. Maintaining she's a huge advocate for victim survivors, with close family members also impacted. The Premier today standing by his decision, releasing a timeline of events and defending his team against claims that they are behind the leaked texts.
You know, making the right decision isn't always easy, but he has made the right decision.
In another bombshell, the former Attorney General defending last year's claims it was her among those who groaned in Parliament at the mention of victim survivors. At the time, she apologised.
I'm sorry for the impact this has had on Miss Geggs and other victim survivors.
But now says she wasn't responsible, saying, "Now I can say it was not me who groaned." Adding she's always been a team player and that she took the heat for others who didn't own up. Labor keeping pressure on the government over the possibility to prorogue or delay the next parliamentary sittings, which has already happened twice this term.
I'll be seeking to offer the Premier a pair so that he can return to Parliament in the knowledge that the numbers on either side of the chamber are as they were before Elise Archer resigned.
Even if the parties agree a pair, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that will hold on the floor.
After a week of political landmarks, Tasmanians hold out hope that the rocky waters will calm. But while that internal chaos continues, the government's no doubt hoping for what it's always spruiked, a strong, stable majority.
And you've had so many MPs resigning and 2 MPs leaving the party as well. It sort of adds to the general impression that the wheels are falling off.
Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmania News.
There's continued public transport woes for Gagebook residents who say the community is struggling following Metro's decision to axe some bus services in an attempt to make the service more reliable.
So, yeah, if you don't have your own car, well, you're stuck.
There are still many issues that Metro and Minister Ferguson need to address, and there's been no timeline in terms of restoring services.
Metro's adamant it's worked hard to ensure suspended services didn't impact one particular area, adding the suspension's aim was to reduce unexpected delays and trips, while the state government says its focus is making the services that are there as reliable as possible. Tasmanians are being urged to seek support after last week's release of the Federal Disability Royal Commission findings. State Disability Minister Jo Palmer says people will be listened to, with more than 10,000 Australians submitting evidence.
It will be quite distressing for some people across Australia and particularly here in Tasmania. So there's some services that have been set up in response to that. One of them is the Blue Knot Foundation and the other is Relationships Australia.
The state government will now work on implementing the recommendations. To other news, and house prices have slightly risen again in Hobart for the start of the spring selling season. New PropTrack data shows a 0.09% rise last month, with numbers still up more than 38% since March 2020. Despite the climb, our capital city still has the weakest performing market in the country. Meanwhile, figures dropped by 0.04% in regional Tasmania. The Northern UTAS campus has thrown its doors open to show off its courses and new buildings to potential students at its open day. The university says there's increased interest in the Launceston campus since its redevelopment.
There is a huge amount of interest, and actually the number of students attending university in Launceston over the last 3 to 4 years, between the last two censuses, has actually increased quite substantially.
About 1,000 people were expected to inspect the campus. Open days have already been held at the Cradle Coast and Hobart sites. The state's industrial hemp legislation could be changed before the 2024 growing season. It comes as a review takes its next steps as the industry looks to expand.
Allowing the full use of hemp plants on the industry's agenda.
It can be quite frustrating for us as members of the industry and for the community to see cannabis, low THC hemp, which is caught up in the Poisons Act and the Misuse of Drugs Act.
Changes could soon be made with the draft Industrial Hemp Amendment Bill open for public comment.
So we had a thorough review of the Act, and we could see that there were some things in the regulations and in the legislation that we could amend that would open up opportunity for the hemp industry.
It has no drug value and it is not a poison, so it shouldn't be confused with either of those things. Once we get that distinction really clearly outlined in our legislation, we'll be able to use it exactly like we do any other commodity crop.
Industry leaders hope the legislation changes will put Tasmania back at the top of the table.
In the past, Tasmania has been the leader in the industry in Australia. However, we're being pipped at the post by New South Wales currently.
The ability to use the whole plant is also predicted to create a positive economic impact.
In the last 3 years, there's been $52 million invested across Australia, but in the next 2 years, we've got a forecast of $195 million to be invested just in the fibre industry alone.
This is a small step in the right direction, but there's still a huge amount that needs to be done.
Consultation will close on October 25. Talia Jordan, 7 Tasmania News.
More than 50 keen walkers laced up their sneakers for the annual Walk for Prems event at the Montrose Foreshore Community Park this morning, counting 3 kilometres worth of laps in the hopes of raising vital awareness and funds for the Life's Little Treasures Foundation, which supports families of babies born prematurely and sick.
It's a really traumatic experience for many families, staying for weeks, sometimes months in hospital, and seeing them come together and be able to do a walk together, and it's just a beautiful day.
The group hopes to raise $500,000. The Clarence City Council has unleashed the four-legged festivities with a Dog's Day Out to suit all breeds. This year's event marked a howling success with an ambassador dog on site to help things run smoothly.
Going barking mad over the Clarence City Council's 17th Dog's Day Out.
There are over 10,000 registered dogs here in Clarence, so we're a dog-loving city, and we as a council are very proud of this event.
Simmons Park packed with hundreds of furry friends from rescues.
This is Gemma and this is Harry. They come from an industry. Getting them out and socialising is a big thing.
To pocket-sized pups and gentle giants like Oscar, who requires 5 hours of grooming.
This is Junior. He's 14 months old. He weighs like 75 kilos and he's a Neapolitan Mastiff.
Each canine sniffing out the competition with tasty prizes for those with the best costume, waggiest tail and coolest trick. Meanwhile, agility courses were a man's best friend for the high-energy hounds.
A new addition to this year's event is Nala, who's come from the Dogs Homes of Tasmania to act as the ambassador dog. Her paws full with multiple responsibilities, including treat testing and honorary judging.
It's a fantastic coup for the Dogs Home, and it's a really good chance for us to get out into the community, start to build a bit of an awareness about what the Dogs Home of Tasmania actually does.
Another successful Pooch Palooza, leaving everyone dog-tired. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
Good evening. Today, Hobart and Launceston 22, Devonport 20, Burnie 18 degrees. Friendly Beaches and Flinders Island, the state's top today with 25 degrees. St Helens 23, Maria Island 21, Grove 20, 19 in Ouse, Wynyard 18, 16 for both Low Head and King Island, Strawn 14, Lyweenie just 13 degrees. High cloud drifted across the state today, moving over the Tasman Sea with an extensive area of low cloud persisting about the west throughout the afternoon. A band of high-level cloud moves across the Tasman Sea, extending over eastern Victoria, with some area of low-level cloud about the southwest WA, SA and Victorian coasts. Tomorrow, the high-pressure ridge will move over the state and the Tasman Sea, with strong winds developing ahead of another cold front. Northeast to northwesterly winds 15 to 25 knots, reaching up to 30 knots over western waters, increasing to 35 knots in the east. West to southwesterly swells 2 to 3 metres in the west and south. A gale warning has been issued for the lower east coast tomorrow. There is also a strong wind warning for most coastal waters. Tomorrow, mostly sunny in Hobart, 22, similar conditions in Dover, 20, and also sunny in Ouse, 23. Launceston sunny, 19, partly cloudy in Devonport, 16. Scottsdale sunny, 17's the top. Burnie partly cloudy, 15, mostly sunny in Strawn with 19, also sunny skies in Stanley with 16 degrees. St Helens sunny, 18, 20 and mostly sunny in Swansea, 18 and sunny also for Ross. And currently in Hobart, it's mostly sunny in Hobart with 12 degrees. Sunny also in Launceston with 14, Devonport 13 and sunny also. That's all from me this evening, Louise. Good night.
Thanks for that, Kyra. And that's all the news as well. Thanks for joining us. We will see you tomorrow. Enjoy your evening. Good night.